Welcome to the course of self-knowledge. This is the part 3 of the course. In the first two parts, I described how our life is suffering, and in the second part, I said and explained how self-knowledge destroys suffering. Now, in this part, I will discuss the steps to achieve self-knowledge. Now, let's get into it. Steps to achieve self-knowledge. The goal is to destroy the illusion of self by destroying the illusion of control. Now, what is self-knowledge? Self-knowledge is basically absence of illusion of self, and illusion of self comes from the illusion of control. Hence, the goal is to destroy the illusion of control. Now, the problem is what feeds illusion of control. The problem is what feeds the illusion of control, and what feeds the illusion of control is desires. So, the problem is basically desires. So to get rid of illusion of control, we have to get rid of desires. Now, how does desire connects to the illusion of control? Why do you go and want to achieve your desires? Why do you strive for achievement of your desires? Why? Because you think they are your desires. You think you are an individual self, and for that individual self you want happiness, and happiness transforms into desires. So hence you want desires because you think you are an individual self, and that desires is of that individual self. So if you think desires are yours, it means you think you have control over what you want. So you have to prove yourself that desires are not yours, and there is no individual self for whom desires needs to be completed. So there are two things. There is an individual self for whom you need to complete desires, and the second is you think that individual self wants that desire, but there is no individual self and there is no one who wants that desire. Hence the belief or the belief of desire in your mind is false, and to get rid of that falseness we have to get rid of desires. So let me help you understand with a beautiful illustration. This is the brain. Now brain thinks that there is an individual self who has control. Let's say the brain feels emotions, the brain is responsible for thoughts, the brain controls actions. But there is also a belief in the brain, the main core belief in the brain, that all these things are done by individual self separate from the brain. The brain controls thoughts, action, behavior, but the brain also thinks that all these action, behavior, thoughts, feelings are done by self. It gives credit to all those things to the self, to this individual self. Why? Because the brain thinks this individual self controls everything, controls actions, controls thoughts, controls feelings. This individual self is me, which is controlling the brain. The brain thinks that. But what is the reality? The thought of self is in the brain, and the brain is not you. Why? Because brain is just a mere process, a mere functioning. It is a biological process conditioned by evolution. Hence you cannot be a brain, because brain is many parts, many functioning parts working together, and you are none of those parts. Hence you are not the brain. But the brain thinks there is a self controlling the brain. The brain thinks there is a self controlling the brain, meaning controlling action, thoughts, feelings. And when the brain thinks there is a self with control, then the desires of the brain, whatever desires the brain holds, it attaches that desire to that self. If the brain thinks there is a self, the desires of the brains, which comes out of mere processes, cause and effect, which are not your desires, those are desires of these functionings of the brain. They are not your desires at all. They are desires of evolutionary conditioning and societal conditioning and environment. So they are not your desires. But the brain thinks there is an individual self who has these desires. So if the brain realizes that it is just a brain, there is no individual self, hence the desires are of the processes of the brain, the functioning of the brain, the conditioning of the brain, and you are not the brain, because the brain is just a biological process. So the desires of the brain are also not yours, and if the desires are not your, the desires are of the brain, and brain is not you, then who are you? You are no one. And if you are no one, this self does not exist. And if this self does not exist, then will you chase desires? Then chasing desires also does not exist. So all that exists is the brain fully realized the reality of the self, and this brain has self knowledge. So to the brain, to fully realize self knowledge, to gain self knowledge, we have to first remove self and chasing desires. Now let's look at two steps to gain and achieve self-knowledge and destroy the illusion of control and destroy the illusion of. Now let's look at steps to achieve self-knowledge. Step 1. Analyze your behavior, thoughts, feelings, desires to know that they are not yours and there is no self. So the first step is self-analysis. You have to analyze every behavior, every thought, every feeling and every desires, and you have to see that they are not yours. So you have to analyze all your desires, all your thoughts, all your feelings, and see that they are not yours. They are just conditioning, they are just a process, they are of the brain, and brain is not you. So self analysis is basically proving yourself that, proving your brain that there is no self, proving your brain that all these desires are not of that individual self. These desires are just cause and effect and process of the brain. These desires are of the brain. Hence, if the desires are not yours, then you do not exist. So self analysis proves that to you, that you do not exist, the self does not exist. And you have to do this with everything, every day, every moment. You have to analyze your every moment, in which where your desires are, where your thoughts are coming from, where your feelings are coming from. Are you the one feeling, are you the one behaving, acting? So this self analysis proves your brain that these actions are not yours, these desires are not yours, the feelings are not yours, and if nothing is mine, then I do not exist. Now let's look at step 2. Do not engage in desires. If there are some desires that seems necessary, engage in them with understanding. So step 2 is basically do not engage in desire. Why you should not engage in desire? Because the reason you engage in desire is purely because of that illusion of self, because you think you want that desire. That is why you are going for completion of that desire. If you think you want that desire, what does that mean? There is an individual self that wants that desire, but in reality you do not want that desire. It is brain's desire, it is the functioning of the brain that wants all the desire. Hence, if you engage in desires, what signal does it send to brain? The signal is there is an individual self that wants that desire to be completed. So this increases the illusion of self. If you engage in desire, it increases the illusion of self. Why? Because the brain thinks that individual self wants that desire. I want that desire. I want self-worth. I want money. I want resources, house, wife, friends. But are you the one who want it? It's the brain's functions, right? So if you want nothing, then does that you even exist? You does not exist. So if you engage in desires, it means you think that you want that desire. That is why you're engaging in it first place. So engaging in desires increases the illusion that you want that desire. And if you think you want that desire, there is some you that exists. Hence, engaging in desires increases the illusion of self. Now, the second part is, if there are some desires that seems necessary, engage in them with understanding. If there are some desires like eating food or some very strong attachment, like you want to play video game, you cannot live without it. So you can go and play them, you can go and eat good food, tasty food, but with understanding. What does it mean? You have to know that this desire is not mine, this desire is brain's. I do not exist. This is the desire of the brain. This is the desire of functioning of the brain, of the neurons receptor, of the amygdala, of the limbic system, of the all that functions. So these desires are not mine. I'm going to play that video game because I cannot resist it no matter what. It seems necessary. I want to eat that food because I need to stay alive. It seems necessary. Hence, I will complete that desire, but by knowing that those desires are not mine. But outside of necessary desires, I will not engage in them, because all that will do is increase your illusion of self. So if I do not engage in desires, what do? My whole day goes in chasing desires. So what will I do? Simple answer is nishkam karma, selfless action. If you do not want, like, you do not have any option, what will you do? If you do not chase desire, do not engage in desires, what will you do? Sit around, do nothing? The answer is do, perform actions, but that action should be selfless. Work selflessly, set a selfless goal. Like, for example, me, I am doing this selfless work of teaching people self knowledge so that their suffering ceases to exist. So I am choosing this selfless work to not engage in my desires, and also help me analyze myself, analyze that I do not want anything, my desires are not mine, the feelings are not mine, the thoughts are not mine. So selfless work will help you with this problem of what will I do if I do not engage in desires, and will also help you in analyzing yourself, because if you face new challenges in your selfless work, it will automatically activate your working brain, and your working brain is responsible for awareness, and without awareness you cannot analyze yourself. Helps you to not engage in desires, because if you sit idly, desires will keep coming in your mind. So the best option is to do something that will distract you, and nishkam karma is the perfect answer for that. It will distract you, and the desires will not attack you anymore. They will, but not in the same level as just sitting around and doing nothing. So these were the two steps to achieve self knowledge. And one additional step to the step 2 is nishkam karma. Selfless action helps with step 2 and step 1. So to achieve self knowledge, you need all this: step 1, step 2, and selfless action. So that's it for this video. I will briefly explain in neuroscientific terms in my next video about how these steps help in gaining self knowledge, and how desires and not engaging in desires affect our brain, and how selfless actions rewires our emotional, our limbic system, our normal memory, and all that. So in next video I will fully explain in detail about the neuroscience behind self knowledge. So that's it for this video. Meet you in the next video.